We hear about Ford losing money on every EV. So at one point they were losing something like $33,000 per Mach-E or F-150 Lightning they were selling. I know they've gotten that number down to where it's in the 20,000s now, but it's still a crazy amount. But they've hired a former Tesla executive and they've got this thing, they're calling it the Ford Skunk Works. So it's part of a third generation EV is what they're working on. Ford declined to provide a lot of details on the project or the timeline, but based on Jim Farley's comments on Tuesday and a year ago, it's likely the Skunkworks project is focused on cost, smaller EVs, and efficiency, including the battery. We know it's tough because you look at the Mach-E's are expensive. They were supposed to be something I think it'd be like $40,000, but in reality, on the lots, they're 65 or more. And then you look at, the Ford F-150. Let's not even talk about EVs. I mean, let's just talk about the F-150 just in general. You'd be hard pressed to find a four-door, 6-foot bed, gas-powered F-150 at any trim level for less than $60,000. Never mind the fact that they added more for the electric one. So it's really a pricey purchase, and they have to be able to make enough that the volume justifies what they're doing. Ford isn't doing the gigapress yet like the others, like GM and Tesla are doing. But I thought this was interesting.
Yeah. So I want to take you back in time. So this is the Ford Model U. If you go through the English alphabet, it's A, B, C, and so on. T and then U. And this was called the Model U, and this was developed in cooperation with a very famous designer called Bill McDonough. And I've interviewed Bill and met him on a couple of occasions. And the idea was to create a car that was sustainable and had all these wonderful features. For example, you see there, the combined suicide doors and the seats that spun around, and the materials that were used in it were completely recyclable. This was the Model U, introduced in 2004.
Oh, wow.
If Ford, kind of like General Motors, when General Motors killed General Motors had a 30-year lead over everybody, and they killed it when they killed the EV1. Well, the same thing kind of happened here. They Ford, this project unfortunately didn't go anywhere. But can you imagine this as just a simple, nice, cheap electric runabout that they could have had 20 years ago? Instead, they decide to build a great big monstrous pickup truck, or they use that platform. They decide to kind of rename and rejigger the Ford Mustang as the Mach-E, and then they build a Transit, and that's it. Just think what they could have had they just carried through with this concept. So they've had these opportunities, put in their lap, and then they, for whatever reasons, the bean counters or whoever say, nah, don't want to go that direction, and they could have gone this direction and been a leader instead of a follower. So yeah, well, do you notice how similar that the Model U is to the Honda car, the electric car they introduced? I forget the name of it. It's so forgettable, unfortunately, but it's very similar kind of a concept. The other thing I wanted to comment too is on Skunk Works. Now, you know what Skunk Works refers to, right? I mean, the first thing that pops to mind,
Right. Lockheed
Lockheed,
Martin.
Lockheed Martin. So I looked that up, and of course, its origin is in the Little Abner comics strip, started in the late 1930s and ran through to the 1960s. I used to read it every Sunday, in the Omaha World Herald when I was a kid growing up.
Can you explain to our listeners what a newspaper is?
Oh, gee, it's a bunch. It's a bunch of paper on which things are printed, right? Cheap newsprint, right? That ran through this machine that stamped letters that were all strung together so you could read them. That's a newspaper. So the Little Abner Skunk Works thing, or that came out of there's Little Abner and Daisy May and all that gang. lived in a village fictional village in Kentucky called Dog Patch. And outside the confines and deep in the woods of Dog Patch, or behind Dog Patch, was this mysterious factory, right, where things were brewed that smelled of skunk. And so that's one of the engineers that was hired by Kelly Johnson to work on. In this case, it was formed in 1943, Lockheed Martin, to build the Lockheed Martin P-80, right? The America's first, no, not technically first. Bell's was first, but to build the P-80 Shooting Star. So that's how that term originated. But it came out of this thing, this foul-smelling thing. There in the fictional village of Dog Patch.
Hi, I'm David with EV World News. If you like this video, then please press the like button. If you like the content and would like to see more videos on electric vehicles, then please hit the subscribe button. If you have some feedback for us, please let us know in the comments. Have a great day.